Well, it's 7 o'clock, so I guess we can call the meeting to order. And Holly, would you please lead us in the salute to the flag? It's up here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I actually am quite sad about tonight's meeting dedication. We're dedicating the meeting to Holly and Kevin Travis, who some of you may know. 18 months ago, they joined the newly formed Haunted Fortress Subcommittee. Their passion and their skills for all things haunted were critical to the fortress actually opening for the first time last year, in many years. Holly's organizational skills kept all of us going in the right direction. Her love of Halloween and technical theater drove our volunteers and actors to deliver a truly great season. When not managing things, you could also find her quietly leading guests through the fortress as a guide. And if you know Holly, being quiet isn't that easy. Kevin's skills with all tools helped make the fortress safe and haunted for guests and volunteers. He created doors, fixed floors, landscaped, tightened, uprighted the train, just to name a few of his tasks. As an actor, he put on makeup and a costume in order to frighten the folks on the swamp walk. That was you. Let's not forget their children, Hunter, Zoe, Maya, and David, and all the other folks they brought to the fortress. They assisted the fortress with scene decorating, cleanup, acting, food services, and more. Not only did this family dedicate their time, but they also have donated a huge amount of supplies for the fortress. Over 500 feet of timber, lumber, 15 storage cabinets, a water cooler, a wet-dry vac, a mini fridge, and much more. They will be greatly missed as they enter their new chapter in life in Wisconsin. So thank you. I actually told them last night I had requested an APB put out on their vehicles so that they're not allowed to leave the state. They just keep getting returned to us. We're at a loss without you, truly.
Well done.
Rita, the roll call.
Burton.
Here.
Ann Aaron.
Here.
Margaret Fallon.
Here.
Nathan Virtue.
Here.
Corey Fanahan.
Here.
Let's see.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Town Board Liaison Reports. Corey.
So first correction was last time I said that I missed the July meeting. Actually, there was no July meeting, so I didn't miss it. At the most recent one, there was discussion about the update on the Rocky Reef subdivision going on. So the road is going to be able to be used by all the private citizens there, and it's going to be upkept by Rocky Reef as it has been in the past. So there was some discussion from prior that they had cleared up about what was going on there. There was also talks of a couple that was trying to add a few more places to the former Fox Runs Farms. The issue with that was the amount of road frontage that was there. So basically they're back to the drawing board and are going to discuss more with their neighbors and see if there's something that they can come up with, some type of solution there. And then there was also discussion about a community member named Karen who was trying to open a 2-bed comfort care for the elderly, which is an incredibly noble and gracious idea. But as we all know, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get that to happen. So basically she was seeking direction as to how she should move forward with this idea. And the planning board told her she needed to get some things in order and come back for a special use permit under the home occupations. So I think she has a little more research to do with that, but certainly a good idea.
Great. Ann?
So I was out of town for the fire commissioners meeting, but I did reach out to Dennis Buhall.
Can you speak into the...
Oh, yes, of course, for that.
I was out of town for the actual meeting, but I did reach out to Dennis Buhall about the fire commissioners. He said that it was a very quick meeting overall. It was a good one to miss. I guess the big thing was discussing the ambulance district, letting the board know that the town had acted on it, and that the commissioners will be the advisory board.
Nathan?
So the update from the recreation committee, the summer's going really well. They're happy so far. They recently had a s'mores night, which did really well. They had about 50 people in attendance, which was more than
It
they
was huge.
anticipated.
There were
but-
so many, I think they ran out of chocolate.
Yes. So they're hoping to do that again with an ice cream night, and so Stewart's is going to donate the ice cream for that, so that will be announced. They're anticipating that with the staff that they have on hand, they'll be able to stay open at least until Labor Day, possibly past that.
Wow.
So they're excited about that. The dock is about 90% complete, so there were some issues with that. I don't need to go into great detail, but there were some sizing issues, and the highway department has been extremely invaluable in making sure that that is close to 100%.
Good.
Julia's here, so I won't go into great detail about the playground. She's going to give a more in-depth update on that. The soccer program, the registration is open. It's going to be in Pine Plains. That's where the coach is, and that's, it's just easier for everyone if it's there. They've started to ideate on some of the autumn activities, possibly doing something, well, they'll be doing something at Community Day, possibly with prizes, both adults and children. Trunk or Treat is October 20th, which is a Friday, from 5 to 7. They are also looking to see if they can get maybe 1 or 2 food trucks to appear for that night as well. And then their next meeting is the 13th of next month. That's it.
Okey dokey, thank you. Margaret?
The CAC is planning a bench dedication on Saturday morning in the Wildlife Preserve. If anyone has been through the trails recently, you might have noticed a bench right by the bend, right by the creek, where a lot of people just sometimes bring their own chairs and they sit and they watch the water. And there's going to be a dedication with some music and some speeches for a local citizen who played a huge role in creating that park, Beth Ashton, who passed away several years ago. But you said she was, I didn't even know she was the deputy clerk. I didn't even know that. She volunteered in many, many different ways in the community. So anyone who would like to come out, pay their respects, see the bench, everyone is welcome on Saturday at 10.
Is it 10?
10.
Okay. I attended the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting last night. There were 2 applications for area variances. Ryan T. Manning on Ernst Road and Joseph Kiernan on Huns Lake Road. And they both will have public hearings on their applications on September 13th. So that was the ZBA. My supervisor's report, I sent out the supervisor's report and bank reconciliation and 2 payroll verifications. As far as our financials, at the close of July, our expenditures are still well in alignment with the budget. Revenues in general look healthy, though there are certain lines that are both educational and may fall short of budget expectations. The fees for research services by the building department are way down, which reflects slowing down people inquiring about property purchases. I think this shows that the housing market may be slowing down, as well as the reality that we have very little housing stock available, especially at an affordable rate. And I would just like at this point to clarify that affordable housing doesn't mean Section 8 housing, which is federally funded, but it simply means houses that people can afford. Which again, I'm sorry?
Can I add to that when you're done?
Sure. What if,
Well, just, there's a recent report has come out for the county that is estimating that there's a affordable housing shortage of 6,000 homes in the
Units?
county and approximately 2,000 rentals in the county. So it's definitely a countywide.
Oh, yeah,
issue.
I think it's a
Yeah,
statewide and
yeah, for sure.
nationwide.
But just to give an idea on numbers.
Wow. Yes, it's a huge nationwide problem that we're facing locally because we want our elders, our workforce, and our children to be able to live here. And then I continue to have concerns about the mortgage tax revenue for the same exact reason. The mortgage rates went up and people slowed down their buying. The Climate Smart Task Force had its monthly meeting, and the work that they're reviewing is so extensive that I would like to schedule an educational session next month at the town board meeting so they can speak about what they're doing. I mean, they're doing so much preparatory work that for me to try to encapsulate it would just be goofy. We'll be appointing an ambulance district commission, and the fire district commissioners have graciously volunteered their time and their knowledge to guide the town board. Good things are happening here, and I'm grateful to everyone who's involved. I want to commend the citizens who came out for the public hearing on the proposed comprehensive plan and voiced their concerns and their ideas. We took the comments seriously and will workshop with the aid of Steve Godovich, who has tremendous institutional knowledge, and come back with a revision. There will never be a consensus on every point, but we hope the public will see that we've heard concerns and listened to them. I still believe it's critical to pass a document that allows the zoning commission to commence the vital work of reviewing and updating our antiquated and porous zoning code. So, with that, I make a motion, or I don't have to make a motion. I simply open the floor to privilege of the floor. Please come to the podium and speak in the microphone. Just say your name and your address for Rita Mary. And we have a very, very long agenda tonight, so if you can hold your comments to 2 minutes, that would be great, and if you can't, then 3 minutes. Is that it?
Wrong glasses. My name is Stacy Adams. I live at 69 Millis Lane. I'm actually here with a letter from Mark Burdick that I would read and present to the board. Regarding the July 31st, 2023 public hearing for Stanford Comprehensive Plan, May 2023 draft. Dear town board members and town clerk, considering that the public hearing was not closed, please make this document a matter of the minutes of the July 31st, 2020, now here we are in August, July 31st, 2023 public hearing concerning the above captioned matter. Attached to this is 1 page with comments pertaining to page number 9, 1 page with comments pertaining to page number 121, and 3 pages containing a 2-page letter to the town board and town clerk dated 7/9/23, which was previously emailed to the town board and town clerk, which discusses various discrepancies in the draft and other comments about the draft. And then a 1-page response from the Supervisor Burton dated 7/21/23. Cordially, Mark Burdick.
Thank you, Stacy.
I'm a good reader.
You are. Well, it's because you're a sea dog.
She's coming behind you, Jack, then you can go.
My name is Sandra Bilski, and I live at 4 Aberdeen Lane, Stanfordville. And I just would ask if I could hear Mr. Callahan repeat your report. I couldn't hear all what you were saying, and I do live on the road that I think you were referencing, and I just wanted to, if you would repeat your comments, what you said.
Sure. So at the last planning board meeting, they had discussed the road that was the shared road previously for the Rocky Reef area, and they said that they are going to maintain that road and it's going to be open to the citizens that are on it.
Was there a worry that the citizens that are on the road wouldn't have access to the road?
I was not worried about that.
Well, I was a little bit, I just wondered if it was a
Right.
general way or not. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to clarify.
Go ahead, Jack.
Hi, Jack Evans from 2248 Bull's Head Road. At the meeting the other night at Cold Spring, there was a lot of appreciation mentioned about the huge turnout that we had. It was even mentioned that it was the biggest one that they've ever seen. There's no doubt that this was due to the well-constructed and painted signs which are placed in key spots in Stanfordville. This week alone, I talked to 5 families that would have not been there had it not been for those signs. So I would like to thank the people that constructed them, painted them, and placed them up for their effort. What they do is inform a larger Stanford population to attend and become involved and aware of an issue as important as property rights. I realize this info is on the internet and on the billboard at the bottom of Town Hall. It's a fact, however, that there's a large portion of people that don't live by the internet, especially in this town, older folks. Maybe there's some suggestions that we could do to incorporate everybody in town for these important things that many people don't hear about. One of them might be to update that sign. I was given that suggestion today, to update our billboard. One of the things that happens down here is people post new issues that are coming up while the old ones are still on there. It's just not a visual way to look at things. Maybe the sign could be placed differently. Maybe it could be lighted. I'm not sure how to do that, but it's a suggestion. The other thing is there should be flyers in every business talking about these meetings. They should be in every store and every business. And the other thing that I suggest, and I'm sure that the town board can come up with a way to send out post office mailings, because now you have included everybody in this town. And anybody that wants to participate will be able to. A lot of people don't hear about this stuff. A lot of people don't drive by the billboard. So there are just some suggestions. I would like to say there was mention that the sign was fear-mongering that were put up. And I'll say that those signs were anything but fear-mongering, but informational to everybody that saw them. And it brought that attendance out. So that's all, and I thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I think we made a commitment to do a mailing for the next one.
Hello, I'm Ann Froman. I'm a 45-year resident in Stanfordville. I'm a sculptor and artist, and the first one to ever put rubber soles on shoes. I just recovered from having cancer, and so I really can't hear everyone, so I wish you'd talk a little louder. Anyway, there's been too many people driving too fast on the roads. We almost hit on Sisters Hill Road 2 young people who were just walking in the middle of the road. And we have to do something about the driving, or the people that do not realize that we live in the rural area. This is not New York City. And I have done fundraisers for the Arts Council and for the hospitals at my studio. And I am in the process, just before I had this illness, I was in the process of doing a television show, which I hope that comes to pass. And it will start educating, and I'd like to be manufacturing in this area, which would bring jobs to a lot of people here. Because I want the schools to start teaching how to make shoes, how to make clothing, how to make jewelry, how to sculpt, how to paint. There's lots of different things that could be done. The last show I did, I had a gallery in Rhinebeck, and the fundraiser I did brought in a lot of money to the gallery and to the hospital in Rhinebeck. And I gave a lot of that money to the nurses, because they are the angels, as far as I'm concerned. I think what you're doing is wonderful. I mean, it's the first time in my life, I just don't know anyone here except for 2 people. And I send you all, God bless you, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Just talk a little louder for the lady.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will try our best.
Ann, can we get your address? Ann, can we get your address for the record?
It's 966 South Anson Road, Stanford.
Thank you.
No, that's I always forget.
Yeah.
Hi, Kevin Ropke, Rock Place in Stanfordville. I'm in following up on the previous person, number one on the new business tonight, and from your email, I understand the topic's going to go into the speeding issues in Stanfordville. It's something that's been a concern about my wife's and myself and even some of our neighbors because of the small streets and the fact that depot lanes become a shortcut it's been that way for years. We had hoped that when the new bridge went in and the section of the road was eliminated, that might mitigate it somewhat, but it really hasn't. I'm just hoping that there and other places, we were bike riding on Gristmill Lane, and I see, sorry to say it, but businesses using Gristmill as a shortcut to go from 82 over to Bull's Head Road. And, they're flying around corners. The signs that you guys put up were great, but they only work as long as they're there. And honestly, I think the problem becomes one enough. It's not all day, every day, of course, but it's become one enough to where it's a concern in too many places, and in some places too consistently. So I'm hoping those things get addressed by talking about police coverage for our town. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Tom Spetner, and I live at 256 Layton Road. First of all, I think those signs that put up how fast you're going are a godsend. They make me more mindful, and I live right in front of one. I see when I'm doing like 7 out of my driveway. I love it. It's really good. And they seem accurate too. I look at my...
So you're all the way at the far end of Layton.
Well, I'm at one end, but there's one up the hill too, so I like them both.
No, they're both.
And people can really...
They have to be in both directions.
You all know that's a big hill, and you can really get moving. So the laws of physics apply very, very, very much. The other thing is the information you were providing before about affordable housing and the numbers of units in the county is very interesting. And there was a very insightful person at the last meeting, the public meeting, who was making some comments about the demographic section of the report. I forget who the fellow was, but his remarks are in the record. I think that section of the report is very informative, but these comments about the report, as I remember them correctly, were that it was somewhat inaccurate. And I think that because I found that so informative and this information about local I just think that demographic section could use maybe some end-to-end scoping, and I would volunteer for whatever reason to just marshal data or mess around with it, because as a newer resident, I found it super helpful to understand the context in which the plan is conceived. So I just want to make a fight for stats. That's all. Thank you.
We know where to find you.
Yeah.
Nathan knows where to find you. Anyone else? Okay, then I will close this session of privilege of the floor, and I would like to open the public hearing on proposed law number 2 of 2023, amending chapter 144 of the town code to authorize a property tax exemption for volunteer firefighters, and volunteer ambulance workers under Section 466A of the New York State Real Property Tax Law. Does anyone have any comments? And I will close the public hearing on the proposed local law number 2. And I will open the public hearing on proposed law number 3 of 2023, amending Chapter 56 of the Town Code entitled Alarms. Don't you guys even think about leaving the state.
Thank you again.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
So the alarm law. Another hot topic. Okay, then I will close the public hearing on local law number 3.
Can I have a second on that, please?
Oh, sorry, Rita.
That's okay.
I second that.
You're too late, Cory.
All right, we'll do
Shouldn't
one
speak
minute.
loud enough.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
For new business, the first item is having a conversation with John Hughes, who is the Officer-in-Chief of the Pine Plains Police Department and a very long-time resident of the town of Stanford. As you know, we are beginning the conversation now about having partial coverage by Pine Plains Police in our town. The contract just arrived last month, and we're beginning discussion on the discussion. So, John, can you come up and talk to us for a while? What? Thank you for coming, too.
You're welcome. So I'm John Hughes. I have lived here for probably 50 years, 62, 57, Route 82. Been in charge of the police since 2014. Been a police officer for 35 years. So as a resident of this town, I really see the speeding and going through the stop signs at not even slowing down and whatnot. So one of the things we could provide would be definitely with a police presence, it would definitely slow down the speed. Along with that, it would slow down, I don't know how much your crime you have down here, but it would slow down your crime if you have any. Any events you have, we would be available for traffic control, parades, whatnot. Check your rec park regularly and your fortress down there to keep any vandalism down. Anything that any of the citizens really want, we'd be at your disposal.
And we had talked, and you're not involved in the contract piece of this, I don't think, but we had talked about a trial of like 3 months.
Yep, correct.
And I think it was 4 4-hour shifts a week.
That's what
right?
I understand.
Yeah, that was my understanding too. And then I'm going to have Nathan speak a little bit about how we have thought, just amongst the board, that we could evaluate. We take a hiatus, we think, and then evaluate how it's going.
I mean, we could keep track of warnings. I mean, I've had so many people tell me down through this stretch, from roosters to the post-delivery people and everything, that it's like the person who owns roosters yells at people as they go by. So it wouldn't be hard to write a lot of tickets here because nobody does 40. And I've had people, with those signs you put out, people even told me, geez, I didn't realize it, but I'm going through town 50, 55.
You could hear the brakes of the tractor trailers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because you could just hear it. Like, they were just going so fast.
And if you do want to ride on some of these nice scenic roads with a bicycle or whatever, you got to worry about somebody coming 60, 70 miles an hour. I watch them, not so much with the new restaurant across from me, but when Sonny's was there, it was like the drag strip. Passing double yellow, doing way above, double the speed limit. This is Mike Bellevue, he's my sergeant.
Hello.
As far as the whole thing goes to, it's not like we're going to come down here and that's it. The big thing for me is with law enforcement, it's about educating the public, and I'm not saying that anybody's stupid. I have to teach to the lowest common denominator because that's how I learn. So that's why I callous on my knuckles, because I drag them all over the ground. It's about educating people. A lot of people don't understand that the speed limit dropped from 55 to 40 in town. A lot of people don't understand that prior to entering a public roadway from a parking lot, an alleyway, a driveway, you have to come to a complete stop, directional, or use your directional, and then turn on the road. So it doesn't mean that we're going to come down here and then take advantage of the fact of people speeding. I believe in self-correction. It's about informing the public what they may or may not be doing wrong, and give them opportunities to self-correct. It doesn't mean that we're going to come down here and lead with an iron fist and get everybody that lives in the community upset. We're here to come down and make Stanfordville safer, make roads safer. I heard there's people that have handwritten signs on Hunslick Road. Does anybody have, is that something that's a known thing, that have people slow down when kids are playing?
Oh, that's a really old,
That's crazy. I mean, it's.
Yeah, a lot of people like to walk.
Disaster. And we were talking, what was it, 2 months ago, about the crosswalk. How many fatalities, how many do we need? You know, it's like one is too many.
Right, that we were talking about when someone from the governor's office popped into my office to ask me, how things were going, and I said, well, we've been trying for years to get the speed limit on the state road lowered because nobody goes 40 and people go very fast. And he said, well, how many deaths have you had? And I said, well, I know of one, but how many do we need? It was like such a bizarre question. So that's what you were referring to. Yeah.
We also have, as far as speed detection, we have the latest and greatest speed detection equipment. We all have body-worn cameras. Cameras are being installed in the cars tomorrow.
The 25th.
The 25th.
25th they'll have the in-car cameras both.
Out the back, out the front. So it's like full disclosure.
It's like we try to lead to transparency in our police department. Obviously, all this information is discoverable. It can all be foiled. Right. So at any time, if anybody wanted to put the Pine Plains Police Department in check, you're more than welcome to anything we have as far as evidence or body-worn camera footage or...
Everything goes straight from there to the cloud, so there's no messing with it.
You listed out a couple of things that you would do. Is there anything that, I don't know what it would be, but is there anything that you wouldn't do in this capacity as far as this contract relation?
As long as it's a police duty, we do a lot more in Pine Plains that the bigger departments wouldn't do. We'll get a neighbor come with something where we could just say it's civil and don't bother us, but we handle it. Okay. So we handle everything we can. If it's a dispute between neighbors or whatever, we handle it.
So anything that comes from like an alarm drop, let's say a domestic dispute, trespass, anything that comes up in the town, obviously that takes priority over anything else. So, obviously your safety, the town safety, the citizen safety in the town of Stanfordville is going to take priority over us waiting, sitting on the side of the road right speed limit. And that's the biggest thing. We don't want you to think that we're coming down to the floor. We're asking down and speaking on behalf of what we can offer you. We can offer everything that the police department has to offer.
Just our presence, the traffic will slow down without writing a ticket. Because they won't know when we're on or where we are.
So, one of the things that we were talking about the other day, which is now, it's one of those things where I mention it and I mention it and it becomes something that I volunteer myself for. So what I'm going to do is, one of the things I would like to do is look at some of the quantitative data from whatever the trial period is, but we're also examining ways that we can do a little bit of a qualitative assessment to look at the before and after, to actually see how the public feels, like is the sentiment change any and that type of thing. But so that's a way for us to kind of measure if this is a success and if it's something we want to continue. But I'm also curious besides the financial component, is there any additional benefits for you doing this with the community?
we can utilize the equipment. I mean, to outfit everybody with these body-worn cameras is a huge expense. The cameras in the car, I think they're 25 grand, right? So it's like we have LiDAR, we have radar, we have live scan, we've got everything that big police departments have. And if we can utilize it in another town and you can gain, some police presence from it, better for us.
Okay. So will you be doing any sort of measurement as far as the trial period, or is it like, if it works well and it isn't an inconvenience, then?
Whatever you guys want.
Even in the contract, it says there'll be monthly reports about everything.
Yeah, I do a monthly report in Pine Plains every month as far as each individual officer and how many complaints, tickets, warnings,
My thing is that I'm not concerned with inconvenience. If my guys feel they're inconvenienced, then they probably got one profession. It's about extending the out ramps to surrounding communities.
We would be putting certain officers down here too. We just wouldn't put it up there, who wants to work Stanfordville. It would be specific ones assigned, not just any of them.
Cool. Are there questions from, Stacy?
I'm just asking for clarification. I'll just take it on the chin. I live on one of the cut-through roads, as you know, and it's quite lovely. But from an educational standpoint that you both spoke about, does that mean you're actually going to write people tickets, or you're going to offer them the opportunity to learn because they had a chance to meet you in person, there's no fine involved?
So that whole thing, that's going to be dependent on how egregious it is. If there's somebody doing 110 down a 30-mile-an-hour road, they're probably going to get some paper, they're probably going to ride back the car, they're probably going to get processed.
We usually give 15 over on a regular basis.
It also depends. So the big thing is that the roads are designed to be a certain width. They have speed limits on roads because of the width of the road, the population density, the actual physical structure of the road, whether it's windy or straight or wide or narrow. That the speed limits are in place for a reason. And technically speaking, the speed limit, 30 miles an hour, that's the limit. That's the maximum limit you're supposed to be going. But obviously, we all know that it's not necessarily reasonable all the time. So 10 miles an hour over, maybe 15, depending on what the road is. But it's all going to be situational dependent. So the totality of circumstances is going to be dependent on whether or not there's warning given or paper. And it's not meant to. I mean, I wish there was a clear-cut answer. It's all going to be situational dependent.
To be clear, I'm not worried for myself. But like I live on a major cut-through road, and we have a fenced-in yard. We do have dogs. I sometimes walk and run on my road, and people, do or don't. But
you shouldn't have to worry about that.
Well, but I think the reality is that the majority of folks that you're going to meet are probably local people. They're not people passing through.
We're not trying to bankrupt people and have them sell their cars and have their insurance removed. It's like I said, it's like, hey, just surprise, we're here.
Even if somebody gets a ticket, that's just an invitation to court. And you have a prosecutor here, just as we do in every town. And there's a chance for a plea deal to plead it out of points into parking or whatever during that. So it's not necessarily they're going to get stuck with a speeding ticket, even if they get one.
Right. I mean, and the thing is that we can only see what's going on in Stanford and Pine Plains. We can't see.
Well, I work Milan too, so.
Milan. I mean, as far as like when we pull up their information on e-justice, so you run the license plate, you run the ticket, or you run the license plate, registration of the license, and depending on what it seems, if this person's license is completely clean, and it's the first time we're having an interaction with them, it's probably going to be a warning, or, like I said, depending on what it is. If it's a little bit over, a little faster, it should be going, depending, on that, but.
Jane?
How many officers does the town of Pine Plains have in its police department?
7.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I had a somewhat similar reaction, but I had a different way of expressing it. Simply that maybe it's like a month of warnings. I don't know, like how you do this really correctly, but maybe it's anybody's going 41 for, especially with back to school coming. I see you in the mornings especially.
Another thing we take into hand too, do they live here or are they passing through here?
Look, and if they're plate runs and they have a warrant, pick them up, but like.
We get a lot of people.
That's the slippery slope too. If you say, oh, hey, listen, for the first month, we're gonna give nothing but warnings, then you got.
Well, I'm not saying you broadcast it.
It's your secret. Street at 130 miles an hour.
No, it's your secret, and the times are up to you. But I'm saying like, hey, we're new in town. This is your warning.
Oh, yeah.
Nice to meet you, and if we do it
Yeah,
again.
we would keep track of that, and it's like.
Look, I think it's great, and I think if back to school can be kept in your plans, I don't know how quickly you can figure that out, but 8 in the morning is crazy fast around here.
That's one thing we take real seriously, and time plans is that we have a real strict enforcement for our school goes. You're in a rush to work, but yet you're gonna take a life of these little kids in your hands by passing school buses, and it seems way too bad stuff happens. Stuff happens to everyone who can.
On Bull's Head Road, they have signs, beware of children and turtles. And let me tell you, in that section, people do slow down. I'm not sure for the turtles or.
It's probably for turtles.
Yes, yeah.
Hi, I'm okay to write a ticket. Just to be clear, we live on Griffinell Lane. We have signs, 5 signs on either end of our road. It's a short road, it's a little over half a mile, has a blind curve, it's technically a single lane road. He can't ride his bike, I can't get my mail in the mailbox, okay? They drive fast all the time.
I know, I go all the way to the rail trail.
I'm 99% positive that they're not locals, because they come from Rhinebeck and they cut through, and ever since the bridge was done, and has never slowed down, we have been a shortcut. You can save maybe 30 seconds if you drive 40 miles an hour down our road, but it's not the price. 40 seconds does not constitute taking the life of somebody or something. We did have a dog that was getting killed on our road, and it's horrible. So I welcome you with open arms. Please come to Bristol Lane. We need you, he needs you, we all need you. So, and it's a serious problem.
Yeah, like I was saying, I go all the way to the rail trail because I don't want to ride on these roads.
I don't like it.
I had two questions. One, are the hours that you guys are going to be stationed randomized, or are they specific times?
We haven't really worked that out. I think it was 16 hours a week, and that's going to be probably your guys' discretion when you want us to come.
And the second question was, are you guys going to have recommendations for the town in terms of the reports? Like, hey, we recommend that the speed limit here be placed at X, or we recommend...
We've had a lot of them lowered in Pine Plains.
Okay.
A lot of roads are 30.
Okay.
You're talking about your local roads.
Local.
And did you have to do a speed study for the whole?
Yeah, there was speed studies. It took quite a while, but
Like years or months?
I think it's years.
How many people have died?
Devo.
Hi, guys. Can I speak from here?
Sure. You're oh, yeah, actually, she was first.
So, would we call you as opposed to calling Troop K?
Well, that number goes to us
It does.
because we're dispatched by the state police.
All right, because I'm on Jensen Hill, and I actually have called them because I'm actually almost on the road, and to go across the road to the mailbox is dangerous. And they have control.
Yeah, our cars have state police tags on them, and we're completely controlled by the state police.
Call 911 and it's dispatched for any available unit in town.
See, we'll call in service here.
We'll call in service, whatever, take it for High Plains. I mean, it's not like, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention too, that this isn't like a hard, there's not any hard property lines where it's like, oh, we're on Pine Plains, here's something for Stanford. It's like, oh, if this happened tomorrow night at this time, we'd be good to go. But seeing as how it's Thursday,
Yeah, we would still come down.
This is all going to, that's things like we're picking up another 50 miles of 50 square miles of patrol area. So we're going to be at a total.
Because we'll go to Millerton, we'll go to Milan if we have to.
It just makes it actually makes it easier for us to do our job as opposed to chomping at the bit and saying, well, man, if we had jurisdiction in Stanfordville, we'd be handling this right now. And then you hear a second poll, a third poll, and then you get somebody coming out of Rhinebeck that's, 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away, or somebody comes from the other side of Pleasant Valley, it's like, this is crazy.
What is this?
Devo? Oh, I'm sorry. Devo, go on.
Mine's long.
Devo, don't
I'm
go
really
on.
impressed with the common sense approach the two sergeants have. The equipment, I'm very jealous of. With new equipment, I had a cop to slow traffic down, we would stick a hairdryer out the window of the radio. And slow traffic down. So in case you run out of things, you can get a hairdryer out of your house.
That was the chief before I took over.
Did that? Well, I had a cop who did that.
We used to put a cardboard box in the car with Stetson on it, park it out on the road, nobody hit it.
That's right. It's a common sense approach. Again, the way this sergeant mentioned it, talking about warning paper or writing, it depends on the individual situation. Everything is different. So everybody is different. It depends on what they're doing and where they're doing it. So that's good. It's good to hear that. The other thing is, it is a part-time approach and a 3-month period of a trial period. And as they said, you're trying to mainly control speed, but they are going to respond to other things. The one thing that I would say that the people who live on small roads, most of us do, and almost all of us have people rip and drive, but you can't have a cop on every driveway, so to speak. So that's something that maybe it's a learning experience or a teaching experience that comes from the town board. Right? So maybe the town board and the local newsletters, maybe could shoot things out to just advise people as to what's going on, who to contact when they see there is an issue. In this case, restart particular. Right? And the other thing maybe is somehow, if you can get around to putting some more of those signs up, like strictly enforced kind of thing, speed strictly enforced, even on side roads where it's not practical, where you have the state trooper, sheriff, or local police to deal with.
Yeah, you won't see sheriffs and troopers on those side roads. Unless they're not
So the thing is, as far as that goes, if we feel complaints as far as specific roads go, we're going to address those complaints.
Yeah.
And we'll sit wherever we're able to. If we're able to sneak in somebody's driveway, sit there, run radar, or just the presence alone. Slow the car down and have somebody see that we're
That's a situation.
Right. But
presenting itself.
but that can be, if we end up getting fielded with, 10 different roads, this little time that we're down here on those roads until we figure something out.
Because ours is constant in Pine Plains, no matter how many tickets we write, we still get complaints just like you all about, they're going past my house, sitting in my driveway. It's like never stops.
I mean, anyone who flies by people walking and riding bikes on the road, it's like, you can't really fix those people.
I mean,
because anyone who doesn't slow down.
Well, I'll give you for instance.
I'll tell you, that's something where, that'd be, I consider that to be extremely egregious. If you're not taking into consideration somebody, a pedestrian on a bicycle or walking down a roadway, and you're gonna rip by them, what happens if, that individual happens to be just that much more irresponsible, looks down at her cell phone, and it goes from, a speeding ticket to it's a homicide, or maybe an accident. So as far as that goes, that's not something I'd be too quick to say, hey, listen, slow down a little bit. You're probably going to be, corrections are going to be made, and it's going to be situationally dependent, but something like that, I mean, you can't just, that's not something you just, let go,
The stop sign is what gets me. I watch people go through this stop sign by the bank and hardly even slow up, and they're in 82. They're just, Ward, Cold Spring Road, tractor trailers, right at.
Renee, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a perfect spot for you. I'm one of those cut-over roads, but my question is, how are you going to determine where the real hot spots are at first?
That's going to be dependent on the
I think
populace.
all of you should maybe contact the board or write a list, and they can disperse us
Right.
as they want.
And Renee, the other thing is, John has lived here for 50 years. He's pretty aware of the little nooks and crannies of the town, so he's a real asset as well. But we'll certainly be happy to keep a list and keep them informed.
I also,
My
Wait, Jen.
observation on when people are speeding is certainly in the morning on their way to work and on their way home at night. But during the middle of the day, it's fairly quiet.
Not bad.
You know what I mean? So it's probably the same in Pine Plains. That's when.
Well, we have 199, so it's like, you can't really tell. It's like constant.
Monday to Friday, during the day, more or less. More appropriate times to do that kind of policing.
and that's one of the things that we had discussed too is maybe to try and find not just locations and times of days, but actually to put that in the trial period, is like structure it in a way to see.
What do you
like,
see the
try
biggest
to-
problems in town?
Well,
Everybody's fault.
Brisbane, Market Lane.
Yeah.
82.
So the other thought was.
Lake Road.
I'll give you a little example. Coming up 82,
Yeah.
it's 40 miles an hour. You turn right to go down Fool's Head. It's a blind curve. There's 1, 2, 3 driveways right there. Now, I'm bringing my granddaughter out on the bus a few weeks back. And everybody that makes that, first of all, they're doing 50 on the 40-mile-an-hour zone. But they take that turn as if it was wide open. And so this guy comes around the corner, the bus is here, I'm walking across, he comes around the corner, slams on the brakes, slides down the road 5 feet. So that is a hell of a hot spot. And now that the bridge is done, it's nothing more than a speedway, because now it's fun to drive up through there.
And Jack, wasn't there an accident there recently with a school bus and
Yeah, my daughter was in that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
One of
My
the-
daughter was in that
That
bus
was
accident.
Same time frame.
One of the ideas that I just had while we were discussing this and you were answering questions and talking about the hot spots was to quote unquote invite you to, I mean, you live in the town, so you're already invited essentially, but for community day. And, you know, I'm not expecting you to be there all day, but if you can commit a couple of hours to maybe ask questions to the public, but also use that as an opportunity to kind of like, we can have like a map and just be like, where are you? Where are you seeing it? And just kind of see where we're seeing hot spots. It's just a way to have like an initial look of, you know, where things are happening.
Everywhere due to the fact that there's been such a lack of police presence.
Yeah.
I think
So
that's.
it's like,
You may have an entirely full map of 50 miles of roads.
people that don't want us here.
The road that's enforced here is the Taconic State Parkway.
Yeah.
Same thing in Milan, because we're shocked when we have somebody coming into court up there that we call them a local. Oh, you're a local. No locals get tickets in Milan. Nobody gets a ticket on a road in Milan. It's all the Taconic.
Pat, did you have a
Yes,
question?
thank you. How would you, how many people are you gonna have to do this? We have a 4-hour slot, whatever day we choose, right? And this is to cover with 4-hour shifts.
4 4-hour shifts.
How many people?
That one person, one car per 4-hour slot.
Okay.
But like they were saying, it's like a trial period. And if it's producing and if the people welcome and everything, we can do more.
Yeah, we could do an 8-hour, we could do an 8-hour day with 2 officers. We could do, I mean, like, I was talking to John about this, I was willing to,
We have 4 cars.
why don't we just go down here and do like a trial period?
We have 3 marked and 1 unmarked.
At the bottom.
So we just go down here, learn the road.
And people speed on that,
We write a couple
too.
tickets, we make 3 stops, no harm, no foul. So we can get, a little bit of a better handle on what's going on in town.
And you're also gonna cover other problems that we have. like
Yeah.
That's it during that
Whatever comes up.
Alarm drops.
911 calls, whatever.
Yes?
Hi, I'd like to say I ride a bike through town. It's my main form of transportation. I have pretty direct.
I think I've seen you have a really unique bike. Right?
Yeah, thank you. I think some important things to consider is focusing on design first is pretty important for this speeding thing. I think that you guys would be able to help by seeing, I mean, everyone has some good ideas for where these issues are, and road design things don't have to be super expensive. It can be markings and things like these signs. I would like to say with the speed control signs, it'd be nicer if they were going to be permanent, that they looked a little nicer. Right now it's like a part and it looks very, like a little haphazard, but I think it would go a long way for it to look nice.
Well, people will be shocked when they start seeing Pine Plains marked cars. They'll be like, what are these cars doing here? Then the word will get around. And it's like, one of those guys around, who knows when?
Yeah, road design is there
Like
all the
super
time,
fast.
though. Making the roads narrower is a pretty big one that encourages people to slow down naturally with the design of it. Narrower
Okay,
roads.
that's a little off, I mean, we can't,
Sorry,
we're
sorry,
talking about the police right now.
I'm 3 months seems like a long trial. I was looking around a little online and it said that some of the trials can usually be a couple weeks or so. I am also just curious how much it is to have you guys here and not.
That's above my pay grade.
I'm sorry, well, I didn't.
What's the cost?
Oh, the cost was $85 an hour, 16 hours a week, 4 weeks in a month. Are you doing, I thought you were doing the math. It was something, I'm going to remember this, it was like maybe $1,200 a month. I'm making that up maybe, but, I mean, I was, because I ran the numbers.
$16,000.
Yeah, for
A
the
year,
3 months.
for 3 months.
3 months,
Right,
yeah.
and so, and John and I have spoken, and he was, well, John, you can speak to that. I mean, you were confident that that the tickets that you gave would cover.
Yeah, you're
the
not gonna
expenses.
really, you're gonna be in the profit.
Well, but that being said, it's not what that's not.
That's not what we're here
Exactly.
for.
I'm not here to.
But
say,
you know-
oh yeah, we're gonna make,
But it's a fact, it's gonna happen. You're gonna be making more than you're spending.
And again, over a trial period, if that wasn't true, we would also, I mean, I believe that it's true, but over a 3-month period of time, it would be pretty apparent where the costs are going.
Well, that's the,
Is that if you've got 911 calls, do you want a 25-minute response or a 4 to 5 minute response?
Yeah.
You want, if that's your loved one that's suffering from whether they fell or they got injured or.
We help with
bleeding,
lifting and
it's
fire
like, right,
calls,
it's
all
not
that.
something where it's like we're just focusing on vehicle traffic.
Yeah,
It's like
that-
we're
I think
handling
that's
everything.
really
And
important
that's what the
component.
big difference is the response time and calls.
That's the importance of the qualitative components of it. It's like the quantitative, like the numbers and the issues and the papers that are issued, what have you. That's all well and good, but there is also, a merit-based conversation that is, if we see that there is a qualitative difference to the town, there might be a willingness to, even if it doesn't generate revenue, even if it's at a loss, there still might be an appetite, because it's like, well, I'm willing to pay for something that makes me feel better. Sure. And so,
Right now that if I was a betting man, I would say that there's probably right around a 100% chance that you're going to see a huge difference in the.
I don't doubt that either, but I'm just saying, it's
Yeah, it's not
there as
gonna
a
be just
quality
vehicle
to
and
assess.
traffic. There's so many other facets to policing.
I think I hate to cut this off because it's a fabulous conversation, but I think maybe, a few more questions, and then, so Devo, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just one more thing, or 2 more things, actually. It's correcting the condition, that's what we're talking about, not so much the money factor, it's to correct a condition. So, and there's ancillary effects too, in that they can answer different calls.
Right.
Obviously, so. The other thing too, I mentioned to someone recently, Jack Evans mentioned the spot that he lives in is a little tricky. As you know, it's where Elvin was, right?
Yeah, of course.
So that's an open spot, and that's why people come to South and 82. Just kind of look around. Is there any way we can make that turn a little more 90 degrees? We have to, actually.
See, the trouble is, it's a state road and a county road.
That's correct.
So you have to involve both of them.
That's right.
And that's where you're gonna come in to.
And Devo, Jane has actually been working, we've been looking at that, and she's been talking to both the county and the state, trying to figure out if one of them would take point on that project.
Right. What about the private owner of that property right there? Can they be enticed, maybe cause something to be directed, something very basic?
Just put a couple cones there.
If you like, as you said, I mean, but something maybe, because it's private property right
Is that
there.
Sam's property?
Keith Sorterini put a rock kind of by his liquor store there.
Yeah.
And damn if somebody didn't hit it and flip over and land right
Oh,
in front of
that's true, but again.
It's Tim Jr.
Speed,
So it is, we'll send Judge.
They
The only
have
other
the whole-
suggestion I have, Board, is, I thought is, okay, correct the condition. One way, I hate to say this, guys, but one way maybe a flashing yellow by the post office with a button that you could hit for a red light. So people can cross right there. It would slow traffic down, north and south on 82.
Wait, you're talking about a stoplight?
It's not a stoplight.
I mean, you're talking about a light.
Yes, a flashing yellow.
It's a state road, though. It's a state
That
road.
means slow down.
Yes.
It's a state road, though.
And again, you gotta involve the state.
Right, but again, it's another option, but besides you guys, in addition to.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yes, ma'am.
When are they supposed to join our community?
This was the beginning,
This is
this
the
was the
beginning
beginning
of
of
the
the discussion.
It goes to our town board.
It can't go
Next
to
week?
your, I don't think it can go to your town board till it comes out of our town board. And we just.
Yeah, that's what it has to
So,
do.
yeah, 'cause- and I think, I meant to write to Brian today, though Lord knows if I did, just saying, we're having our first public conversation today, so it's going to take a little time. If, you know, we want to get some kind of consensus, we want to figure out what, I mean, this has been an extremely positive conversation, and I hope that some people who had misgivings about, and we heard misgivings about having a police force come in here, but I hope that this assuages some of those misgivings. My sense is it's a pretty much of a win-win situation, especially if we do it in a trial period and then we can assess it.
Well, around the country.
If it's okay to ask, how does the board feel about it? Is there any, I don't know, is there any
Negativity.
that doesn't feel the need for it, or?
I think I mean, this is the very first time we're actually discussing it.
No, I think everyone, we all live here too. We've all experienced the speeding, and we've talked about it many, many times, and that's, I think, why we started this discussion. So we're really grateful that you came down and you answered all the questions that people had.
See, years ago, we were asked by, I think, I forget who was the supervisor, and our town wouldn't do it because of the insurance costs and everything.
Yeah.
So I was offered a job down here. They were going to buy, a secondhand car, and I was going to be like a constable, but I couldn't carry a weapon, so that was out. I'm not stopping cars without protection.
I'm very open to the idea of the trial, but a lot of what I do in my day job is pilots and experimentation, and the goal is you have to set a goal for that experiment. And so that's why it's on me to figure out what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But like I want to see this experiment succeed, quite honestly, because like Margaret mentioned, I'm also.
Well, we do too, and that's our thing. It's not just Pine Plains. It's not like our community's Pine Plains.
Yeah.
And once again, it's at hard orders. No, we responded.
Your
to Pine,
neighbors.
We responded to Millerton. We've been to Poughkeepsie. We've been to Pleasant Valley. All in this area because ultimately this whole area is our community.
Yeah,
It's not, like,
we're
it's
neighbors
not
with different
hard
zip codes.
We've been in a car chase. We've been in a car chase all the way to Fishkill on the Parkway.
So I had Ulster County and front yard.
That's right. All right, then. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Julia, batter up.
I know, sorry guys.
Hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Julia Dakota, 89 Haight Hill Road. It's a tough act to follow these guys. So thanks for listening to the Spark Park update. When I walked in, I was like, oh my God, everyone's here for the Spark Park update. And I was like, oh no, I don't know.
They are.
So there's two things that we want to cover. Is one, just updating the town and folks who are here on the design status, the timeline, and fundraising, including the grants. And then the second is just the town involvement and discussion in certain areas that we might need just some further discussion on. So one is the design of Spark Park in particular. We've had several rounds of community events and feedback processes, and the final design has been completed for the playground. It is on display on the Stanfordville campaign website, as well as at the library for those who don't have access to internet. We'll also be bringing the display to the summer concert this Saturday, as well as to Community Day on September 16th. Fundraising, we have currently raised over $300,000 for materials. The full cost of the materials is estimated at around $650,000. This is a far cry from the initial cost back in 1993, which was, from what I understand, and Kathy, keep me honest here, it was about $75,000. So inflation and just the cost of materials has really done a number with us. We initially had estimated about $550,000 for the materials, but through feedback during our design outreach sessions, there was a lot of feedback on wanting expanded poured-in rubber ground covering to replace the pea ground covering that we have now. So that increased the cost to about $100,000. If we pull back on that, and I'll talk about sort of timeline, that goes in at the last moment. If we don't have enough money, we can always scale back on the materials for that. People opted for poured-in rubber, as well as the surface area. If we go with something like engineered wood fiber, it would be about 1/10 of the cost, so we can have some significant savings there. We also submitted a grant application to the state, which could partially fund the cost for the playground. And we submitted that at the end of July. We had 15 letters of support from the local government officials and organizations, and we also received several letters of support pledging volunteer equipment, materials from local contractors and business owners. Thank you, Ben, who's in the room right now, for pledging some support there. Notification of the grant will be forthcoming in late November, early December.
Julie,
yes.
That's the grant that we applied to, the same grant that we applied to last year and rejected. And okay.
Yes. The reason that we got rejected last year was because we had some costs that were, according to the state, over and above what they would accept. And so we got that feedback. We obviously changed those costs and we took them out. And we also had many more letters of support, as well as many more local businesses pledging their support. So we're in a much better shape this year. And we obviously went through a design process. And so we have a very clear sense of what it's going to cost, what the design looks like. So we're in a much, much, much better place than we were last year. We were told that we got like 12th out of 30 applicants, and top 10 and above received some form of money. So we feel like we're in a really good shape to receive some form of grant this year. Awesome. The focus this late summer and early fall will be on targeting large donors, as well as small businesses and local businesses, Lowe's, Home Depot, Page, Williams, to name a few, for the remainder of the donations, whether that's in the form of materials or manpower or dollars themselves. We've also started to roll out how we're going to recognize larger donations. So things like $10,000 and above in the form of services or materials will receive playground component adoption, meaning that they can adopt that playground component. $5,000 or above can adopt a park bench, which, if everyone who's been to Spark Park knows that we need more benches to sit down. And $2,500 and above would be a Friend of Spark Park plaque notification there. That is something that we need also some town board feedback on, is just the placement of that plaque and where we, how we sort of go about that process. We're also going about fundraising for playground fence pickets for $250. We'll be selling them at Community Day, so tell your friends and bring your checkbook. Play by Design, who's our design firm, is also starting the Sourcewell contract for our project, which means that they're creating the contract for all the items that need to be purchased through the Play by Design office that will go through that contract. The committee ourselves are responsible for the local items, so those pieces are not included on the contract. So those are things like pieces of hardware, concrete, which we hope to get donated by the local businesses, as I mentioned earlier. The items that we can add those items in if we have to, but for now, we plan to reach out to the local community. Now on to town involvement and discussion, where we need where we need to go. Demolition of the existing Spark Park, removal of the debris, access to the site surface preparations, including the need for removal, adding of soil and grading of site for the build, and then the timeline of the demolition and any potential involvement from relevant town services, including the highway department. Based on feedback and some discussions with Lauren, the recreation director, the build is desired to be completed by the end of May 2024 in order to offset any potential conflicts with the opening of the actual facility for the summer programming. So for the prep leading up to the build, we need at least 1 month's time for the demo, grading, and surveying stakeout process. That's how much it takes most groups to handle the work. We'll also need to have time to prep the site for the actual build, which means staging it with materials, setting up things for the volunteers, etc. That is anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So for now, we estimate about 2 months of site prep leading up to the build week. And that's at a minimum of what we'll need. So we need to discuss and have some consensus with the town on when we can have access to the site, all of that good stuff. This would take us to late March at the latest to start the demo grading process, which should be sufficient for the ground post-winter, and it shouldn't be frozen by then. We've also received feedback from a few local businesses that they would be interested in assisting with the demo of the existing park, and that funding would be funded by the campaign. So that would be additional funding that we would need to do over and above the $650,000 that I had mentioned. This would be several dumpsters for the disposal of the old park materials, which I've reached out to a couple of dumpster businesses to get those donated. But we'd also like just some input on if there's something from the town that we could leverage, so we don't have to keep going out to local businesses. And then the last piece is the rubber surfacing, as I mentioned, which will go in about a week after, and then any time after that, we can plan a grand opening for the park. So that is our update. I know, a lot.
So, Julia, it sounds as if we need to some of us need to sit down with some of you and go do the nitty-gritty of what you've just gone through.
Yeah, and who's going to be doing what, and who's who and what's what. So we have a consultant from Play by Design who is available to sit with us as well and divvy up all of that. Every town does it differently. We have a plan to visit Warwick Park, which is in New York, just further south. They recently put in a new park last year, so we're going to go and sit with their head of the playground just to talk about how they divvied things up as well. I don't believe that they had an existing build. I think that theirs was a net new build, but we'll learn a little bit more. But we do have Samantha available from Play by Design who can sit with us in workshop. We also have numerous spreadsheets from her available that can just talk through sort of who does what and just talk it through.
Okay, great. Okay. Jack.
I wanted to say that when you get closer to the demo, there's a lot of qualified people in town that would certainly volunteer to help out whoever else you put for businesses. So make sure that we can put that out to the community.
Yeah, that's part of the plan. I think when we do Community Day, we've just started to last year we started the list on the number of volunteers. We have several hundred that have volunteered already, but we need to get down to the nitty gritty, and we have a couple of contractors who are on the playground committee who have said that they would help with that part as well. So we would love your help, Jack, and probably my son would love to be knocking stuff down at the park too, so anyone is welcome to help. Exactly. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Renee?
Make sure you research the rubber footing to make sure that it doesn't emit anything toxic, because I've done a lot of reading about rubber in playgrounds and how some of it's very toxic.
Yeah, the ones that we have, everything is, and I don't have the accreditation in front of me, but Play by Design, everything's certified by like the federal oversight of playground, but agreed, all of these, it's interesting because the playground was constructed 30 years ago, and when they did the inspection, they found, remnants of like toxic materials, and so the materials are consistently updating, and so poured in rubber covering, while overwhelmingly like safer and easier to maintain, might not be the best long-term solution for us, but that was something that the community really opted for. Engineered wood fiber is cheaper, and it's something that can be maintained, and you just have to put in additional engineered wood fiber every couple of years because it does break down and it does get weeds and things like that, so it does need to be maintained a little bit more.
There are published papers about the toxicity of the rubber footing playground.
Yeah.
So there's just so you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, good.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, let's see if we can whiz through the rest of the agenda. Lightning speed. Resolution 8A. Ann, do you want to read this?
I have to find it. You're asking me too quickly.
I have it, but.
Here,
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, do you want me to give it to you?
And this was.
Do you want me to do that? Because I've got it in front of me.
Yeah, Rita, why don't you read it, and why don't you explain why we're doing this?
Town of Stanford Resolution
Speak into the
8A
mic.
Sorry. Resolution 8A of 2023, to name a private road or common drive for the 911 project. Motion made by, seconded by, whereas Dutchess County has implemented the E911 emergency response and call monitoring for the entire county, whereas the County of Dutchess has reviewed the road names and addresses in the town of Stanford to ensure correct recognition and identification of parcels on roads in the town of Stanford, whereas the County of Dutchess has requested the town of Stanford to name private roads in the town for compliance with E911 to enable E911 response system to identify parcels, and whereas the name assigned below to the private road has been suggested by the owner of said property and road in the town. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Stanford, by the town of Stanford, that this road be known as Leffingwell Lane for a private drive to include the property of the Millbrook School, tax parcel grid number 6967-00-385632. Be it further resolved that the town of Stanford, by naming the road, assumes no responsibility or liability for the construction, maintenance, repair, or use of said private road, that said private road named herein is not in any way deemed to have been dedicated or accepted by the town, and that this resolution is made only to provide a means of identifying private roads for emergency response purposes. And be it further resolved that the town shall order the sign, but the expense of said sign and its installations shall be paid for by the owner, the property owner. And be it further resolved that the town clerk forwards a copy of this resolution to the E911 coordinator. This is for a road over by the Millbrook School. They've done a lot of building over there, and they apparently have a new little road, which will be called Leffingwell Lane after the town board approves it.
So I make a motion.
I second it. Wendy Burton?
Yes.
Ann Arend?
Yes.
Margaret Fallon?
Yes.
Nathan Lavertu?
Yes.
Corey Clanahan?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 8B, to enact local law number 2 for the year 2023, a local law amending Chapter 144 of the Town Code to authorize a property tax exemption for volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers under Section 466A of the New York State Real Property Tax Law. So we have read the law, we have had the public hearing, and now I can make a motion to,
I don't know what you normally do if you read the whole resolution.
Not
and
again.
just summarize it, but yeah, you need a motion and a second, and then by roll call vote, the board has to vote on the resolution enacting the local law.
so we do that.
Are you on number 6?
I'm on
We're on number 4, resolution
number 4.
8B.
For the
It's 5
firemen?
on mine.
For the firemen?
Mm-hmm.
Resolution,
Yeah.
mine says 8B, to enact local law
I
number
think you
2,
just
the
have it on there
firemen's
twice.
exemption.
Correct,
Yeah.
number 4.
It's just
Okay.
on here
No, it's
twice.
8B.
What's this?
I don't know, that's a different law.
What's this one?
That's a new law.
Okay, so number 4 is to enact the local law number 2, the firemen's exemption.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. And you read that last month.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
So that, I can, it's a tax exemption up to 10%, and in the resolution, it has the exemptions are granted under certain clauses in terms of spouses, tenureship, and those kind of attributes for their service.
and we were unfortunately not allowed to raise it any higher than the 10% that the state mandates, or the state suggests as a cap. So, do we have a motion to?
I would like them, please.
Enact local law number?
I motion to enact it.
Thank you.
I second that motion.
Wendy Burton?
Yes.
Ann Arend?
Yes.
Margaret Fallon?
Yes.
Nathan LaVertue?
Yes.
Corey Flanagan?
Yes.
And then Resolution 8C to enact local law number 3, which is the amended Chapter 56 of the Town Code entitled Alarms. We read this, we've read it in many iterations. This is the final iteration, I hope, and I would like to make a motion to enact local law number 3.
Second.
Wendy Burton?
Yes.
Ann Arend?
Yes.
Margaret Fallon?
Yes.
Nathan LaVertue?
Yes.
Corey Flanagan?
Yes.
Okay, so now, we have another local law to introduce, and this basically is the same kind of law that we enacted for firefighters and emergency workers. This is to amend Articles 1 and 4 of Chapter 144 of the Town Code to increase the maximum income eligibility level for real property tax exemptions for senior citizens and individuals who are disabled and have limited incomes. Margaret, do you want to? Sure.
Town of Stanford Local Law Number 4 for the year 2023, a local law amending Articles 1 and 4 of Chapter 144 of the Town Code to increase the maximum income eligibility level for the real property tax exemptions for senior citizens and individuals who are disabled and have limited incomes. At a meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Stanford held at Town Hall on the 10th day of August 2023 at 7 p.m., Town Supervisor Wendy Burton called the meeting to order, and she, seconded by Councilperson Fallon, moved the following resolution to introduce the following proposed law to be known as Proposed Local Law Number 4 of 2023, entitled A Local Law Amending Articles 1 and 4 of Chapter 144 of the Town Code to increase the maximum income eligibility level for real property tax exemptions for senior citizens and persons with disabilities and limited incomes as follows. Be it enacted by the Town Board of the Town of Stanford as follows. Section 1, Legislative Intent. Article 1 and Article 4 of Chapter 144 of the Town Code entitled Taxation have not been updated in several years. As a result, the Town Board has determined that the exemptions from real property taxation available to senior citizens and persons with disabilities and limited incomes in the Town of Stanford have not kept pace with inflation and the increased real property values over the years. As a result, the Town Board has determined it is in the best interest of the town to increase the maximum income amounts for eligibility for the exemption from real property tax available to senior citizens under Article 1 of Chapter 144 and to persons with disabilities and limited incomes under Article 4 of Chapter 144 of the Town Code. This increase in the maximum income amounts for eligibility for such real property tax exemptions will keep such exemptions amount in line with current economic conditions. Section 2, Chapter 144 of the Town of Stanford Town Code entitled Taxation is hereby amended by repealing the existing 144-2B2 and replacing it with the following language. 2, the percentage of exemption shall be based on the maximum annual income range specified herein as follows. I read the whole chart?
You can just summarize it, because that's going to take, you're amending the chart which contains the income, maximum income levels for eligibility. So from 0 to 41,600, you get the full amount of the available exemption, which is 50% of the assessed value, and then it maxes out at 49,100, but less than 50,000 is 5%. $50,000 or more in income, there is no available exemption.
Okay, thank you. Section 3, Chapter 144 of the Town of Stanford Town Code entitled Taxation is hereby amended by repealing the existing 144-8 entitled Amount of Exemption and replacing it with the following language. 144-8, Amount of Exemption. Real property owned by one or more persons with disabilities, or real property owned by a husband, wife, or both, or by siblings, at least one of whom has a disability, or real property owned by one or more persons, some of whom qualify under this article and 467 of the real property tax law, and whose income, as hereafter defined, is limited by reason of such disability, shall be exempt from taxation by any municipal corporation in which located to the extent of 50% of the assessed valuation thereof, as hereinafter provided for income up to $41,600. The town hereby also provides an exemption so as to increase the maximum income eligibility level of such municipal corporation as provided in the following schedule. And then there's another chart, annual income range, and it goes from 0 to 50,000, and again, it breaks down the percentage of assessed valuation exemption from taxation. Section 4, this local law shall take effect as of the date of filing with the New York Secretary of State. Town Supervisor Wendy Burton advised the town board that pursuant to the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, it was necessary to hold a public hearing upon this proposed local law. Whereas Supervisor Burton has introduced this proposed local law for the town of Stanford to be known as the Town of Stanford Proposed Local Law Number 4 of 2023, entitled A Local Law Amending Articles 1 and 4 of Chapter 144 of the Town Code to increase the maximum income eligibility levels for real property tax exemptions for senior citizens and persons with disabilities and limited incomes. Now, therefore, be it further resolved that a public hearing be held in relation to the proposed local law as set forth in the form of notice hereinafter provided, at which hearing parties in interest and citizens shall have the opportunity to be heard, to be held at the Town Hall on September 14th, 2023 at 7:00 p.m., and that notice of said meeting shall be published in the official newspaper of general circulation in the town of Stanford by the town clerk at least 5 days before such hearing, and that such notice shall be in the following form.
Just let's say
Oh, okay.
Just say what day we're.
So could we have a motion, please, to set that public hearing for September 14th?
I make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Should we add any
I'm
comments
going to do
now?
a roll call vote on that, too. Wendy Burton?
Can we- No? Okay.
Wait, I think Nathan wants to make the comment.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just wondering, can we?
Why not?
Okay, I'm just making sure. Well, because I think there's a little bit more that we can add to that, is just for the purposes of documentation of the meeting, which is referencing the values as they stand now. So the local law that established that exemption chart was last established in 2005.
Right.
And so the values in there have, from an inflation perspective, we're talking about 55, 60% inflation number changes. We're talking about 65% increase in home valuation numbers. So it's that chart evolution is on par, but it also creates a buffer for if there is another 16, 17 years gap, if there is a revision to that chart. So I just wanted to add that for clarification.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wendy Burton?
Yes.
Ann Aaron?
Yes.
Margaret Fallon?
Yes.
Nathan McGurchu?
Yes.
Corey Flanagan?
Yes.
Thank you, Evans.
Okay. I have a local law number 5 to introduce, which is establishing a district board of ambulance commissioners. When we went through the whole process of establishing an ambulance district so that the fire district didn't have the burden of carrying that on their budget line, which threw them way off on the, whoops.
Time's up.
Sorry, which threw their budget off terribly, and And so we've established a separate ambulance district simply so that that it can have its own budget line. The taxpayers will end up paying the same as they would have if it had been tacked on to the fire department's budget, but the fire department won't be crippled. So they very kindly, the commissioners of the fire district very kindly said that they would volunteer to be the commission for the ambulance district because they're the ones that have been negotiating with the ambulance company, and they were willing to take that burden off of the town board. So in order to do that, the town board will end up adopting that budget for the ambulance district. Anyway, in order to finish the circle and have all this in place, we need to establish the ambulance commissioners. So, maybe you read this.
I have it.
I have it.
At the meeting of the town board of the town of Stanford, held at the Stanford Town Hall on the 10th of August, 2023 at 8:31, Town Supervisor Wendy Burton called the meeting to order, and she's seconded by councilperson whomever. Move the following resolution to introduce the following proposed local law to be known as Proposed Local Law Number 5 of 2023, entitled A Local Law Establishing a District Board of Commissioners for the Town Ambulance District, there's a typo there, as follows. Be it enacted by the town board of the town of Stanford as follows. Section 1, legislative intent. The town board recently established a townwide ambulance district pursuant to Article 12-A of the New York Town Law to provide ambulance service to the residents of the town of Stanford. Subsection 10F and E of Section 198 of the New York Town Law gives the town board the authority to establish a district board of ambulance commissioners by local law. The town board now wishes to enact such a local law to establish such a district board of ambulance commissioners to act in an advisory capacity to the town board. Section 2. The town board hereby establishes a district board of ambulance commissioners to consist of 5 members who shall be appointed by the town board by resolution to serve in an advisory capacity to the town board. The terms of each member shall be determined by the resolution by the town board, with such terms to be fixed so that at least one commissioner term will expire at the end of each calendar year.
And then I got rid of this last sentence.
Okay.
Because the commissioners wrote their 5 years and they do rotate every year.
Okay.
So-
You got rid of that last line?
Yeah, about the term shall not exceed 3 years because they're
Okay.
on 5-year
Five-year
schedules and each one bottoms out and then goes in.
Okay. Section 3, this local law shall take effect as of the date of filing with the New York Secretary of State. Town Supervisor Wendy Burton advised the town board that pursuant to the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, it was necessary to hold a public hearing upon this proposed local law. Whereas Supervisor Burton has introduced this proposed local law for the town of Stanford to be known as the Town of Stanford Proposed Local Law Number 5 of 2023, entitled A Local Law Establishing a District Board of Commissioners for the Town Ambulance District, again a typo. Now therefore be it resolved that a public hearing be held in relation to the proposed local law as set forth in the form of notice hereinafter provided, at which hearing parties in interest and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard, to be held at the Town Hall on September 14th, 2023 at 7:00 p.m., and that notice of said meeting shall be published in the official newspaper of general circulation in the town of Stanford by the town clerk at least 5 days before such hearing, and that such notice shall be in the following form, which is the notice of public hearing statement, which is a blanket statement.
Okay.
And who's going to make the motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Wendy Burton?
Yes.
Ann Aaron?
Yes.
Margaret Allen?
Yes.
Nathan Virtue?
Yes.
Cory Flanagan?
Yes.
I'm not, we're going to just put off the resolution to establish a zoning commission because we don't have it written yet. So we can do that in September. I make a motion to close the comprehensive plan public hearing from July 31st.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion to set the comprehensive plan workshop for Tuesday, August 15th.
Second.
So that might be a typo on people's.
Yeah, it is. We had to
so
change the date.
It's not Monday, it's Tuesday, if your paper copy says Monday.
And who seconded it? I'm sorry.
I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now I would like to make a motion to appoint Matt Cavalier to the Stanford Emergency Management Committee. I just would like to read a little bit about Matt, and then he's here tonight.
I'll remind
you.
If you want to do a 2-for-1 deal.
Sure.
Respectful of everybody's time. Yeah, so you don't have to read it anymore.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you again for the opportunity and the invitation to speak this evening to the town board. My name is Matt Cavalier. I'm a relatively recently new town resident. I've been active in various emergency services disciplines for the better part of 2 decades. And I'd like to provide just a little bit of additional information regarding my qualifications and experiences relevant to the town's Emergency Management Committee. So, as you might know, the Boy Scout motto is be prepared, and I did see an Eagle Scout sticker in the parking lot, so that's great. I joined my local troop in 1997. I attained the rank of Eagle Scout in 2002. Since then, you could say I've made a career out of being prepared. Since 2014, with the exception of almost 1 year recently where I served as Regional Director of Emergency Management and Safety for WMC Health's Northern Region, I've worked for the Westchester County Department of Emergency Services in the Emergency Management Division. There, I was primarily involved with the training, planning, preparedness, and exercise related to the county's Radiological Emergency Response Plan for Indian Point Energy Center, which is a commercial nuclear power facility in Buchanan, Westchester County, which is currently undergoing decommissioning. I also helped, as part of those responsibilities generally, with facilitating the function of the county's Emergency Operations Center. Mostly, I was the planning section chief during our exercises and various EOC activations, including COVID-19. We were open at that point in full, if you will, for about 139 days. So as I mentioned previously, I have been at the county for almost a decade. Recently, for about a year, I was the Regional Director of Emergency Management and Safety for WMC Health's Northern Region, which is Mid-Hudson Regional Hospital in Poughkeepsie and Health Alliance Hospital in Kingston, which was actually a conglomeration of the former Kingston and Benedictine hospitals. There, I was responsible for managing their emergency management grant programs, including budgeting, deliverable tracking and coordination. And I'm very, very proud of the work that was done there. The new hospital radio system that I successfully guided through the procurement process now allows Health Alliance to have the internal communication that they need, and they also have the ability to link with the other hospitals, such as Mid-Hudson, such as the Medical Center in Valhalla, for coordination and incident communication as might be needed. In December of 2014, you might have seen in the media that we transitioned operations from the Broadway campus in Kingston, which was the former Kingston Hospital, over to the Marys Avenue campus, which was formerly known as the Benedictine Hospital, now Health Alliance Hospital Kingston. That was a multidisciplinary effort, a huge effort, as I'm sure you can imagine. It was a collaboration amongst certainly the internal hospital departments, our external partners in the city, the county level, the state level, and it was just an enormous undertaking. It was about 16 or 18 hours, and we moved all the patients from one site to the other within that single operational period. Leading up to that, I was fortunate to be able to facilitate some tabletop discussions amongst the hospital departments to prompt discussion of certain planning considerations, how this might look, how all the pieces fit together, because as I'm sure you're aware, one of the major tenets of emergency management is facilitation and coordination. I hold a Bachelor's of Science in Communications from Ithaca College, as well as a Master's in Public Administration from the City University of New York, John Jay College. I served as a volunteer EMT from 2009 to 2016, and during that time period, I spent about a half decade of that in various operational leadership positions in some of the EMS agencies in Putnam County where I used to live and where I volunteered. So I look forward to bringing my knowledge and expertise in emergency management as far as the planning, preparedness, and policy arenas to the committee. And that concludes my prepared remarks, pending any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have to make a motion?
So,
Do we just make, someone need to make? a
Do I get to make a motion on that?
You can
All right, I
make-
certainly motion that we accept it.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I have another resolution. At least it's not a local law. This is Resolution 8D, to approve the bid from Hudson Valley Works to install the new doors and transom windows at Town Hall and to transfer funds from the American Rescue Funds account New York class ending in 09 and move the funds to the general fund ending in 018. Whereas the town board of the town Stanford has reviewed the bids for installing new doors and windows at the two front entrances of Town Hall, which will be instrumental in energy conservation. And whereas the lowest bid came from Hudson Valley Works for a total of $8,282, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Stanford accepts the aforementioned bid. Whereas the town of Stanford will be investing American Rescue Plan funds to pay for the removal and installation of two sets of doors and windows at the entryways to Town Hall, and whereas the New York class account ending in 09 American Rescue Fund account contains funds for this purpose, and whereas the town of Stanford will transfer funds from New York class account ending in 09 to Millbrook General Fund account ending in 18. Now therefore be it resolved, the following accounts will be used when the invoice is verified, and we won't, so we're approving the use of the ARP funds, but we will not actually do this until we won't literally move money until we have an invoice.
Wendy, did you make the motion?
What?
Are you going to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second, Nathan. Okay, it's a resolution. Wendy Burton.
Yes.
Ann Aaron.
Yes.
Margaret Fallon.
Yes, and many thanks to Jane for all the extra work she did on this.
Nathan Lavertio.
Yes.
Corey Flanagan.
Yes.
And on this, I have a slight technical change to make on Resolution 8E of 2023 to modify the budget for the Dutchess County grant approval in April of 2023. We received a grant from Dutchess County for $100,000 to replace the docks and other equipment at the pond at the wreck. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the funds are accounted for thusly, and the grant, the estimated revenue, because it's a grant, the grant code is 002707, grants from local governments, is $100,000, and we're putting it into the appropriation line of 06718022. So that's a modification of what you see, which is equipment for the Dutchess County grant.
Motion by Wendy.
Second.
Wendy Burton.
Yes.
Ann Aaron.
Yes.
Margaret Fallon.
Yes.
Nathan Lavertio.
Yes.
Corey Flanagan.
Yes.
Do you have a spare copy of that, or
Leave
me one whenever?
I do. I have one. Permission for the court clerks to attend training in September. They haven't been to training in a long time because of COVID, so they've asked for permission, and we have-
Granted.
Permission granted, okay.
On motion made by?
Do they?
I'll make
By
a
Margaret.
motion to
Second.
grant permission.
Second by?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, gosh. Janie, do you want to discuss? Never mind. Website copyright violation.
I can explain that.
I would just say that Jane's been heroic in pursuing this to the end as well. We got notified of a copyright violation of a photograph that was used on our website. Oh, gosh. I don't even remember the year. Yeah, 2007 maybe.
7 or 8.
Yeah. And at first we thought, well, this is just a scam. We took, the image was up there. It had been put up there by a former website manager. Jane did a lot of due diligence to make sure that the company who claimed that they were representing the photographer actually did represent the photographer, and then Jane did additional research to make sure that the photographer in question actually had taken the photograph, who owned the copyright for it. So they started off with some very high demand. I think it was in euros. It was like 950 euros for usage, and then 950 euros for well, they're in Germany for continued usage, licensing. So I immediately took the image down from the website, so there'll be no future use. And they came back after a lot of back and forth, and they are willing to settle for $450 basically, right? In euros, right? So we did violate their copyright, and I would like to make a motion to pay the $450.
Just one modification to the story is that it's actually, it was not a photograph, it was a sports-oriented character drawing, essentially.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was...
It was a soccer thing.
Yeah, it was someone's artwork that they had generated for some purposes, and they had copyrighted it. So it was probably work that was created for license usage in particular, and somehow found its way onto our website.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sadly. We'd like to set the dates for the budget workshops. I'm currently working on the 2024 budget, and the budget workshop dates will be September 21st, September 28th, and October 5th. That's not a motion, it's just a statement.
I second that statement. That's a good statement.
Yes, Jack?
Is that open to the public?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we
Bring
get.
caffeine. Just bring caffeine.
And toothpicks. Approval of the minutes. I make a motion to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2023.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
Corey did.
Corey did. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, she was, I was going to say that.
Okay, thank you all.
Approval of the abstract number 8 for August. General fund spent $60,205.50. The highway spent $44,905.01. And our Bengal light bill was $797.60.
It's gone down.
Well, it's going down since the LEDs.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
we gotta get
noticeable.
these, we gotta get these converted soon.
Motion by Wendy.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think that second was all.
Does anybody have any other business they'd like to discuss? Okay, then I will open up the second privilege of the floor. What?
You forgot number 8.
No, we
We got
skipped
rid
it.
of number 8.
We don't have the resolution written.
Right.
So we did
Did you
skip it.
zone out?
But thank you. Well, Margaret,
I just wanted to ask a question, the Bangor lights.
yeah,
Something I probably missed, or was, if You putting a light up there, or?
No, they're, all those street lights, which are a lighting
Street
district,
lights.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what we did was we worked with Central Hudson and we converted them to LED. So the bills are, it's pretty astonishing, they're really coming down. Yeah.
Thanks.
There's one letter that came in that was asked to be read into the,
This is from James King, August 8th, 2023, to Wendy Burton. Wendy, several weeks ago, I wrote to your building inspector and inquired into the fact Rathjen Landscaping is still in business as a large-scale construction company utilizing the same, quote, contractor's yard your building inspector said was to be shut down. As usual, I have not heard anything from the building inspector's office about any follow-up inspections of the Rathjen now horticultural business, so I thought possibly you or another member of the town board might have some insight into how that change in property use is being handled and monitored. By the way, trucks of all sizes and shapes continue to traverse Fancourt Road beginning around 7 daily, and the beep beeping of equipment at the supposedly defunct contractor's yard continue unlawfully as they have for the past 2 years. Has the town attorney done anything about this since my last letter advising you, the town board, and the building inspector that this contracting company is continuing to do business as usual? Please share this with the town attorney and your fellow board members. The rest of the community is gaining interest in this fiasco, so I would appreciate it if you would read this aloud at the next public town board meeting. Jim King.
you want to give that to Rita? Anyone else?
Ben Rathjen, 158 Charwell Drive. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but seeing as my neighbor continues to harass me, I wanted to speak. I want to bring attention to the town supervisor's blatant misconduct as of recent. The recent antics are just another instance in a long list of items in her abuse of power. The residents of this town need to be made aware of what's going on. The town supervisor duties and responsibilities are to the town. According to the New York State Comptroller's list of duties for town supervisor, there's no mention of zoning enforcement officer in list of duties. The town supervisor has an obligation to remain neutral in areas of community disputes, though as many of you know, that is far from what goes on. Our town supervisor has stepped outside her duties time and time again and has taken sides in neighborhood and zoning issues, as well as many other areas of the town business. Wendy has threatened at least 2 property owners with stop work orders, again, not within her list of duties as town supervisors. She threatened me with a stop work order, as well as a logging operation that was undergoing permitting processes on Hobbs Lane. Again, not within the duties as town supervisor. She made things so difficult for the property owner that she ended up selling half the property to a neighbor who wished to purchase half of the property, and she gave up on the permitting process in the middle and forgoed the logging process. Not only does our town supervisor take sides in neighborhood issues, but she takes action and attacks residents in response to these neighborhood issues. She has no regard for the separation of duties of town departments and acts as a tyrant. In her tenure as town supervisor, she has exposed the town to massive liability by abuse of power. Our town deserves a supervisor that stays in their lane and values the businesses that are in this community. I'm sure many of you here tonight have noticed the recent opening of Three Brothers Pizza at the previous location of Uncle Sonny's. You may be interested to know, though she may publicly rejoice, they're open, and there's another business in Stanfordville providing a food and dining option to residents. She tried to block them from opening because of the amount of time that had passed since Uncle Sonny's had stopped operating, because it's a non-conforming use, but it predated zoning. Every opportunity she gets to suppress businesses in town, she takes full advantage. I actually left my stack of $85 of FOIL requests that I have copies of, so that's 25 cents a piece, whatever the math is there. At least 5 property owners have felt these tyrannical effects from our town supervisor's activist policies, from calling the New York State DEC and Darling Sand and Gravel Junior's diesel repair, to gathering up with neighbors, one of which is now a town board member, to stop what would have been a legally permitted logging operation, having coffee with them, discussing with them how they were going to, quote, ease their concerns. In another instance of another property owner, a zoning issue, the town board had discussed possibly surveilling this man's property with a drone. I think everybody in town would take issue with the town possibly flying drones over people's property for a means of surveilling to see if there was zoning violations. We are a critical point in our town's development. We're either headed to be one of those towns that micromanages everything that everyone does in the community, and do we want to live in a town that promotes business growth? As we have heard repeatedly, contractors are, quote, the lifeblood of our community. The old adage, do what you say and say what you mean, we hear time and time again. Our town supervisor is not looking to shut down any businesses. Find yourself an upset neighbor or two and a business in town, and watch the town supervisor go to work. I must say, she is very dedicated to her job as quasi-zoning enforcement officer.
Thank you, Ben. Anybody else? At that point, I think I will close privilege of the floor. And Margaret?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
I was waiting for her to say it, but you weren't on.